What's up, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. For our first question, Mr. J.D. Rice asks what we're expecting from the Visions novel Ronin.
I'm just excited that they're making a novel based off of this series. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I saw the announcement and I was excited about it. I literally don't know anything else other than that.
I mean, what I'm hoping for is that it's just kind of its own thing, its own separate, weird story in Star Wars. The title Ronin would suggest that it's about kind of like a wandering Jedi that...
I was going to say, what is there like a definition for Ronin?
Ronin is a samurai without a master, I think.
Ooh.
So
like a Padawan without a master. Or
maybe something like that. Maybe it could be maybe after Order 66. Like, I mean, Ahsoka is kind of like a Ronin, where I don't think it's going to be about Ahsoka, but she is someone who just kind of like travels from city to city and does good when she can. So that would be my expectation for the vibe of this story. I hope it's about someone completely new. I think Del Rey said, like, just to be clear, this is not an adaptation of any of the shorts. It is inspired by one of the shorts. So it'll probably follow one of the characters on more adventures.
I wonder if it'll be like a Jedi Robin Hood situation.
Yeah, it could be.
Goes around, helps people in need. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that would be something reasonable to expect.
Cyrus wants to know how the Skywalker saga would have been different if Obi-Wan and Luke had hired Hondo at the cantina instead of Han.
Interesting thought.
Very interesting.
I bet it would have been even funnier.
I don't think Hondo would have stuck around very long.
I don't know that I see Hondo coming back to save the day the way Han does.
Yeah, and plus he wouldn't have the Falcon. Or are we assuming he has the Falcon?
No, I think he'd have a different ship. It's just like, what if Hondo were standing right behind Boshek instead of Chewie?
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan's like, I need a pilot. And Hondo's like, well, today is your lucky day, my friend. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm proud of that.
Dr. Mandibles is on the other side of the bar, just like, I'm a pilot.
Yeah, so what do you think would have happened if Hondo took them around?
Like I said, I think they would have gotten as far as they got to the point where Luke is trying to convince Han why they should save the princess. Like, she's rich. I feel like Hondo would be like, eh.
I'm trying to decide if they would even escape the Death Star or if he would just surrender. Would they even hide under the floorboards, or would he just be like, I give up?
Yeah, he's the type that thinks that he can talk his way out of anything, which, I mean, so is Han, but like that makes me think he wouldn't disguise himself, and he definitely wouldn't jump in a garbage chute.
Yeah, I don't really see him doing that willingly. I mean, to save his life, probably, but like I think he would have complained about it even more. I don't see him... The big thing is I don't see him coming to save Luke at the end. I think that's I think the Death Star survives.
Yeah.
It is interesting that both their names, Han and Hondo, they are like similar characters, but it's one of those Will of the Force things is that they ran into Han, the person they needed, someone who's a scoundrel, but with a heart of gold. And I don't think Hondo fits that description quite as well.
Ghost Ryu asks if Mother Talzin is Force sensitive, or do her magics just let her access the Force?
We've talked about the Night Sisters before and their magic and everything, and I was like, this is an interesting way to look at it, is like, okay, are the Night Sisters Force sensitive, or do they use magic to control the Force? I think that they are Force sensitive.
I was going to say the opposite.
Okay.
I think I like the idea of they have their own special connection to the Force, and that is their magic. And that allows them to then access aspects of the Force.
The reason I was going to say the other is because Asajj trains to be a Jedi and a Sith, but that doesn't mean that it can't be both. Just based on what we've seen with Asajj, I was like, okay, well, it's probably just controlling the Force through other means, but Yeah.
Do we see Asajj use Night Sister magic?
I don't think so.
Does that mean she can't, or like?
I think she could be trained to.
Yeah, I'm still a little foggy on the whole Night Sister magic stuff.
It's very much open for debate. There's no right answer here.
Yeah, it's cool. I love it. I just don't really understand.
Yeah, the incantations, the spells and stuff. It's like, I think that when we say, is someone force sensitive? It's like, I think anyone can be force sensitive. I think you're probably right in the sense that the Jedi wouldn't show up and try to train a bunch of Night Sisters, because they're probably not force sensitive in the same way that a Jedi would say that they are.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to think about just that. I love seeing the way different cultures and groups use and relate with the Force. It's not all just the Jedi or the Sith and how they do it.
Maybe Night Sister magic is more like being one of the elemental benders in Avatar. It's like you really have to train yourself and work hard at it to get good at it.
Probably, or it might just be like a mental thing where like using the spells is almost a placebo effect of like, yeah, it's this incantation makes me control the Force, when really it's just like your will. But who knows? That'd be something very fun. The Night Sisters feel so underused. I would love to see them more.
That super old lady.
Old Daka?
Mm.
Well, Grievous killed her, so.
Dang it, Grievous. Phantom Jedi wants to know what happened to Han's freighter in The Force Awakens. That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever thought about this.
Well, we last saw it in the hands of the two gangs, but it was also being overrun by Rathtars. I kind of like the idea that the gangs were just like, no, forget this, and they both got out.
They all leave.
And the freighter's just there.
With the Rathtars in it.
Ooh.
What if the Rathtars figure out how to use the escape pods?
Oh, no. Well, I just had an idea. That would be a really fun video game mission set in the sequel trilogy or after. Like, it could be a long time. I don't know how long Rathtars live, but there's like an Easter egg in the cross-sections book that suggests that Han's freighter has the Twi'lek Ark of the Covenant on it.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Like it's full of cargo containers and stuff. So it would be really fun to get to land on that ship and try to survive Rathtars and like get treasure and get back out. Like that would be a really fun mission to just go explore that ship.
That would be cool. But ultimately, yeah, I think it's just out floating in space somewhere, and eventually someone will find it and think that they got a free freighter, and they'll be unhappy with the contents inside.
Yep.
Leftist Hominid asks, what Will Lark's reaction would have been to finding out that Vader was Luke and Leia's father?
I'm going to throw out that this is going to have some slight spoilers for Victory's Price. If you haven't read it yet, I'll put a time code to skip ahead. But
well, first of all, for those of you who haven't read the Alphabet Squadron books, Will Lark is a character from those books.
Yeah, he's the A-Wing pilot. Basically, there's a great scene in Victory's Price where he talks about, after the Battle of Endor, seeing Luke respectfully burning Vader's body and just not understanding it.
He's there and he witnesses it.
Yeah, he's just kind of like, he went on a walk in the woods and he
stumbles upon a awkward father-son pyre.
Yeah.
And he's like...
Yeah, but he doesn't know the father-son thing. And so his whole thing is like, why is Luke Skywalker so sad about this and so respectful over Vader? And Will Lark is also like the best of the pilots in terms of moral compass. He's like, anyone can be redeemed, but he sees Vader and he's like, what is this about? Vader is not redeemable. So I just like that idea that at the end of the book, he becomes a senator in the New Republic. So in theory, he could still be around when that information becomes public. And I think that would probably actually explain a lot for him. I think he'd be like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like 28 years earlier, okay, now I understand.
Mm. I mean, he could also just think that like, well, he's a model Jedi, and that even Vader deserved some kind of respectful burial.
He certainly didn't think that in the book, but years later, I think that maybe knowing that would change his mind a little bit. I also don't think he'd hold it against Leia. He seems to have respect for her, and he's not like the political machinations type, so he wouldn't use that information against her or anything. I think he'd be able to let that go. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where we left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained content like audio commentaries for the films, and we're doing commentaries for the Clone Wars, and this week's episode is Frontrunners, and that's available right now if you're interested.
On to YouTube questions. Lidcan asks, what are 2 Star Wars stories that don't feel like they're in the same universe if you didn't know anything else about Star Wars?
Honestly, I think this is pretty easy for me because I remember reading the first Thrawn Ascendancy book last year, Chaos Rising, and being like, I don't think I would know this was a Star Wars book if it weren't on the title and if I didn't know who Thrawn was. And I meant that in a good way. I liked how different it felt being in the Chiss Ascendancy. So honestly, Chaos Rising and almost anything else, especially it ties into the Clone Wars a little bit. So jump to the original trilogy or beyond, and it's just like night and day difference.
Yeah. I mean, the first one I thought of is Phasma. If you were to take out, I mean, there are like flashbacks and flash forwards throughout the book, and like by the end you know kind of what happens with Phasma, but for the majority of that book, yeah, you wouldn't know it was in the Star Wars universe.
I think those are 2, if we combine our answers, Chaos Rising and Phasma are so different.
Yeah. So
completely different.
Samuel Whitby wants to know if the Intergalactic Banking Clan dealt with other galaxies as the name suggests.
So Inter versus Intragalactic. Intergalactic suggests that it's, working with other galaxies. No, I don't think so. I think it was just Star Wars rule of cool. Like, what sounds better, whether or not it makes the most sense.
Rule of cool?
Yeah, that's...
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, that's what Star Wars tends to follow.
Sure.
Whenever people are like, well, why does this happen? And even though it's not scientifically accurate. Because it looks cooler. Like
movie magic.
Right.
Look over here.
So I think that they were probably just bouncing ideas around for the banking clan, and they were like, Intergalactic, Intragalactic. Intragalactic doesn't sound right. Intergalactic. I think that's genuinely what happened.
Yeah. Or there are other galaxies out there that we don't know about.
Oh, I think there definitely are. But I don't think...
And they are very busy.
I don't think the banking clan is dealing with them.
Juan Pablo Perez Sanchez asks if we have a favorite blaster.
I think I'm just going to go boring and classic with the DL-44. And I also like that we learned that it can be a carbine in Solo. Yeah.
I don't know that this counts as a blaster, but I'm going to go with the Mandalorian pulse rifle.
I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's so cool, and it disintegrates things.
I think that's an excellent choice.
Hans Mork Tophole wants to know if we think Andor will have ties to other Star Wars media like The Mandalorian and The Bad Batch do.
I think that's likely.
I mean, it's gotta have, obviously, ties to Rogue One.
Oh, yeah, sure. Beyond the obvious, like...
It'd be cool to have ties to, like, Catalyst.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Just, like, little things here and there. But, yeah, I have to imagine there will be some kind of other ties.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's somehow connected with Kenobi or anything else that's coming out in that kind of area. Maybe even Ahsoka, since Cassian went by the Fulcrum name, so did Ahsoka. So, yeah, like Kenobi, we've kind of bounced this around before, is that maybe Bail Organa could be in contact with him at some point. I was
about to bring him up, because if Bail is in Andor, we could get connections to Obi-Wan, we could get connections to what Leia is up to.
Yeah. It's an idea that I'm not initially crazy about, but it does seem to make sense for, the whole corporate synergy thing. And like, remember, we got this other show coming out.
Yeah. Jesper Levels asks if we would want to see a story about Jedi pilots.
Interesting question, because, yeah, I love pilot stories, but a lot of what I like about them is the fact that they aren't about Force-sensitive people. They're just about regular soldiers doing their best to change the galaxy. Mm-hmm. That's what the X-Wing books were, except for like Corran Horn, who we eventually found out was Force-sensitive. But that's why I like Wedge and Biggs and stuff. So I think it would be cool, though, to see like an actual squadron of Jedi pilots instead of, it always seems like just a secondary thing that they can do,
Mm-hmm. This feels like it could absolutely happen. I don't know that it would be like its own full-on story, maybe like a short story or a comic series or like a young reader book, but I'm thinking High Republic Jedi, because they have like this special Force connection with the ships.
Yeah.
They basically use their lightsabers as keys.
Right.
And they're like very in tune with flying and using the Force at the same time.
Yeah,
so,
those specific vectors.
Yeah. I can see that.
I was going to say something similar, because we're seeing that there are more specialized Jedi within the Jedi Order during the High Republic, is that they kind of were allowed to be a little bit more flexible and free in what they wanted to do. And like, some Jedi are just mechanics, and they're like, hey, this is what I was born to do. I'm really good at fixing things and using the Force to do it. Like, Anakin may have done that if he were born in the High Republic, or, I mean, he seemed to be good at like everything, but it would be interesting if there were just a group of Jedi who were like, I really love flying, I'm really great at it, and they got to do, like, have their own squadron. I think that's a cool idea. That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below, or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitch.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.